Hey guys, so this is the first video of the third course that we're going to be doing for the virtual makerspace engineering course. I think you've been tired of hearing that if you've been watching these through, but we're going to be covering the slingshot rocket, and it's nothing too advanced, but again, this first video is going to be introducing to it. I think it's going to also be a little bit shorter because there's there's not much that there is besides projectiles and why projectiles work, and also tension, all those other topics that we're going to be talking about soon. But I also want to say this is the first part of 3, and the second part would be covering the building and the creating of the slingshot rocket, and the third will be going over why it's important, which would be, important to listen to. So stay tuned for all of those that are coming. But we're going to first be starting with what is a slingshot rocket? So if you think about it, what is a slingshot? Let's cover that first. A slingshot is basically a rubber band, so I got one here, where you're able to put something in between them and it's able to go across the room. That's basically a slingshot. Or let's say you're able to pull back on something and it's able to shoot. And I don't want to shoot on my computer, but you get the idea. It's where you pull and it goes outwards. And why, or the main factors that go to this is tension. So once you see a rubber band, oops, I dropped it on the floor. Sorry about, nope, that fell on the floor again. Okay, nope. There we go. I got it. So one thing to know about tension is that I want to talk about potential energy and potential energy and basically just energy in general. So once you think about this rubber band right here, it has the potential energy to be stretched, or has the potential to be stretched. So what that means is that you see right here is very flaccid. It's very like you can move it around, whatever. But once you start pulling on it, it becomes very tense, and you can see that where you have activated its potential energy or its potential tension, if you want to call it. And at this stage, it is activated basically. But right here is potential because it has the potential to be stretched. And that's really important for this topic because, well, that's what rubber bands do, and that's what slingshots are really important for. It's activating the rubber band from just regular non-activated potential energy and activating that potential energy to be able to be stretched and as such launched. So yeah, that's the first thing I want to cover. The second thing I want to cover is just tension in general. So what tension means is it's similar to the potential energy, but think of the rubber band as it's flaccid, and now this rubber band has tension. And you can tell that because, well, it's able to be very rigid, not rigid, it's able to be like, it's able to reflect back to where its previous location, where if you like move the rubber band here, it could deform. But whenever you try to move it here, it always goes back to its previous place, even no matter what you try to do. And that's the one thing about tension. And tension is really important in these slingshot rockets because, well, you need tension to be able to shoot the rocket across the room. Another thing I also want to discuss is about air resistance. So let's say I shoot. So that's just the rubber band and whatever. Now we're going to be moving on to the actual rocket. So the rocket, while it's flying, goes through the air at a certain speed. So let's say I shoot it and it's now moving 1 mile per hour in this direction. I don't know how fast that is, but that's theoretical. So it's moving at a certain speed in this direction. And as it's moving, there is a force of gravity that is trying to push it downwards. There's also the force of air resistance that's pushing it downwards or pushing it against it. Because let's say air is there to be able to, like wind or other things like that, it reflects or it pushes against the movement of the projectile. So let's say it's this tiny little wooden craft stick. As it's moving through space, air resistance is going in the opposite direction. So this is pushing it and slowing it down from, like, let's say 1 mile to 1.8 as it's moving through. And also once you take into account, so you have air resistance going this way, gravity going downwards, and you also have the tension or the force of the rubber band on the back of this truss stick. So that's why it's moving forwards, which, as you can see, if you throw something, let's say we throw something as a parabolic shape, what that means is that it moves in a curve. It moves from one point, as the bottom, upwards at the very peak and all the way down. So that would be a parabolic curve. And why this is important is that you could reflect it back onto the two forces or the couple forces that we just discussed. Think about it. If you have force at the beginning, you are pushing. So basically, you have a really fast force from the rubber band, and it's pushing it upwards, 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 and out. And once you get here, this is where the air resistance has slowed down the or once it reaches its peak, sorry, this is when gravity has overcome the force that has been put on the wooden craft stick by the rubber band. So think about it. We push the rubber band upwards, 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 upwards. Now it's stuck at the top. And this is where it has zero movement. And this is because the rubber band, the force of the rubber band on this craft stick has now stopped from it going upward, and gravity is now pushing it downward. So now here, it's now going downward, 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 downward. And that is mainly caused because of gravity. And taking account air resistance, and whenever you are moving against it, so horizontally, you can see how it slows down, but it's basically it has a long extension towards the right side and it sharply goes down. That's why many of the things that you throw just drop, because air resistance, at least when you're going really fast, just drops it downward. And yeah, there's also inertia, which would another claim, and this is a physics topic. I don't think many of you guys should know this, so that's why I'm going to give you a brief explanation here. So inertia is basically that once an object is in motion, it's going to stay in motion. So let's say you throw something. Once you throw something, it is accelerating or moving at a speed that you cannot, stop. Let's say you are moving, and you throw this other car. It's going to go in that direction solely. And because of this, it has the inertia to go in one direction. And I think that was a very lackluster definition, but you could also look more up if you're very interested in the topic and learn more about it yourself. Because I think learning it from me is just gonna give you that one idea of, oh, this is inertia, oh, this is potential energy, oh, this is tension. And then from that, you'll be able to learn more and be able to combine these topics to go and reach out to different, or just even look up on YouTube other videos from other researchers and to learn more about all these topics. So yeah, in the next video section, we're going to be covering how to make the slingshot rocket. So stay tuned and go to that video after this one. So yeah, thank you. See you there.